Very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Bibliophiles, I, Sarveshwar Pradhan, take this opportunity to welcome all of you in this virtual meet. We are very much privileged and honored to have with us the most celebrated economist, and we generally call him the people's economist around us. Uh, you are most welcome, Giant Race. And in this August gathering, we also welcome to our reviewer of this book, Dr. Sujit Prasid. You are also most welcome. On behalf of the bibliophiles, I welcome all the dignitaries and most of the academicians, different practitioners at the field levels. They have joined from different parts of the country. On behalf of these bibliophiles, I also welcomes to Motilal Mohammad sir. He has joined from Rajasthan, ISD Jaipur. So, without wasting much of this particular day, it is a very privileged day, basic honor for all of us. As I told you, the idea was to spread the book, reading of book habits among different people, different generations of peoples. We celebrated this idea of very rural areas of Odisha, and it spread to this level uh, from the the endeavor given by Kishore Meher sirs and other team members. They have consistently worked, putting their efforts to distribute the books, different pamphlets, and especially to the childrens, mostly in the underprivileged and rural backgrounds of Odisha. So thank you very much, and I welcome all of you once again for this August gathering. We choose particularly this today's book is the book name of the book is Home in the World by Nobel laureate Amartya Sen. He's very loving persons for all of us. Those who know very well about him, we must. Everybody has read about his pieces. So let's start the discussions without talking much about the books. Now welcomes Siddheshwar Pradhan to please introduce our guest today. Thank you. Over to you, Siddheshwar.
Thank you, Sarveshwar. A very good afternoon to all. As you all know, we are going to have a great discussion on book entitled Home in the World, a memoir written by Professor Amartya Sen, one of the world's leading public intellectuals and Nobel Prize winner of economics. It is my great privilege to introduce the guest of honor and speaker in this meeting. Our guest of honor is Professor Jean Drèze, a public intellectual, academician, and social activist. Jean Drèze, born in Belgium in 1959, came to India in 1979, and he studied mathematical economics in the University of Essex, England in 1980s, and did his PhD in Indian Statistical Institute, New Delhi. And since 1979, he is living in India. And he has served as an honorary professor at London School of Economics, at Delhi School of Economics, and presently serving as a visiting professor at the Department of Economics, Ranchi University. Although he studied economics, he is very much interested with the different communities, with local and social movements. Over and above, he is concerned with peoples and their problems and work as a social activist. As a professor of development economics, Professor Drèze is very much popular among the academicians and scholars. Many of you might have read his research articles and books, which he personally authored and co-authored with Professor Sen and others. Some of his popular books are like Hunger and Public Action with Professor Amartya Sen, India Economic Development and Social Security, Development and Participation, and Uncertain Glory, India and Its Contradiction. In 2017, he written a popular book called Sense and Solidarity, Jholawala Economics with Everyone. His area of research includes hunger and public action, famine, public distribution system in India, and he personally lived with the people to have personal experience and exposure to their problems and he collected his data for his research. And you might have seen some of his TV interviews broadcasted in various news channels, which are largely available in YouTube channel also. And the most interesting thing about Professor Dres is that he is closely associated with Professor Amartya Sen for more than 3 decades. And as we are going to have a discussion on Amartya Sen memoirs today, Professor Draj will be the most suitable person to highlight his experience with Professor Sen. And with this brief introduction, I welcome Professor Jan Draj to this book review meeting. And today, our speaker is Dr. Sujit Kumar Kuset. And Dr. Kuset is very much familiar and well known to most of us and is an active member of our group Bibliophiles. And still, I would like to give a brief introduction of Dr. Sujit Kuset. He did his MA, MPhil, PhD in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And he served as an academician in various leading educational institutions in India, of India, like National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, Indian Institute of Management, Indore, Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi, and also served as members of different expert committee under various state governments and Government of India. He is also a senior fellow of Community Center for Policy Research, New Delhi. But the most important thing about Dr. Sujit Kuset is that he is a voracious reader and contributed as a regular columnist to various English and Odia newspapers. These days, what I have witnessed is that he is regularly delivering talk on various webinars, meetings, and such other forums. And to me, he is really a great source of inspiration. With this brief introduction about Dr. Sujit Kuset, on behalf of Bibliophiles, I welcome to this book review meeting. And with a hope of great deliberation and fruitful engagement, once again, I welcome you all to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddheswar, for your introductory introductions about read guest. Actually, we didn't require so much in about to Dr. Jan or Dr. Sujit, at least in this August gathering. So, without wasting much time, we are very much anxious to uh, listen about the associations of uh, Nobel laureate and his associated Dr. Jan, what kind of associations he has, particularly working on the very seminal work on hunger and poverty, the famine. We are very much uh, speaking with Jan Rich is an honor for all of us. So, with this emotional attachment with the subject called famine, hunger, and the great Nobel laureate Amartya Sen, we request Giant Rich to please give his reflections on the associations with uh, Dr. Professor Amartya Sen. Over to you, Jan.
Shouldn't we hear about the book first? No? I have not prepared any presentation. I thought I would
No.
contribute to this.
We will definitely. For that, we have allocated a good amount of time. So please go ahead.
Okay, I have not prepared any remarks on this, but yes, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
Amartya Sen is an old colleague and a friend. We have worked together for, I guess, 35 years. The initial encounter was a kind of chance encounter, but it did play a very important role right from the beginning. It all began when I read his book Poverty and Famines, which was published around the time when I came to India shortly afterwards. So I came in 1979, and there was a severe drought at that time in large parts of the country, particularly in Rajasthan and other parts of Western India. I was in the position at that time that I think many economics students find themselves around the end of their PhD or after their PhD, at least maybe less so today, but certainly around that time, when there's a kind of disconnect between what you learn and what you aspire to do. What I mean by that is that I had studied mathematical economics at Essex University. Then I had done a PhD at the Indian Statistical Institute. And so on the one hand, there was that intellectual life, which was kind of abstract because economics was and still is to a large extent quite a formal discipline. And then I also had a life as an activist and as a person interested in social issues, which goes back much earlier, in fact, to my childhood. But I was not able to connect the two because the kinds of economics that I was learning, and especially mathematical economics, didn't seem to have much bearing on real world issues. For example, when that drought and that threat of famine was happening in Western India, and then I saw that there was a kind of relief system mainly based on public works programs that made it possible to avert a famine and protect people from starvation. All this seemed interesting to me. And I thought maybe I should try to do some work on that for my PhD. But I couldn't find a framework in economics to look at these issues. And then I saw that book, Poverty and Famines. And that enabled me that was a discovery of a new approach to development economics. And that seemed to facilitate bringing economics to bear on real world issues and particularly on development issues. So after reading that book, I wrote to Amartya Sen and I shared with him some of my thoughts on what was happening in India. And I said that it might be interesting to work not only on the causes of famines, which is what his book was about, but also on the prevention of famines. And that's when he invited me to do some work on this and present a paper on famine prevention in India at a conference that he was organizing at the World Institute of Development Economics Research in Helsinki. And that's how the collaboration began. So it was a kind of turning point for me because it helped me to connect the academic life with my life as an activist and as a person interested in social change. And that, of course, has continued ever since. I think Amartya Sen is a very important person and intellectual to remember today, to appreciate, to read, because he stands for critical values that are being threatened today. For example, the scientific temper, the commitment to rationality, the commitment to freedom, and to, of course, equality and fraternity as well. And I think he has been towering figure among those who have provided an intellectual defense of these values. So I think it's very important to appreciate his work, to understand it, all the more so because, as you all know, there has been an unfortunate tendency in India to devalue some of his work in recent years, which is kind of paradoxical, because at the same time that he's been honored all over the world as one of the great intellectuals of the 20th century, and also for that matter of the 21st. In India, he has been a victim of a lot of attacks ever since he became critical of the Hindutva movement and the Modi government in particular. So there have been organized attacks on him and attempts to defame him and troll him and so on and so forth, leading to some devaluation of his work, which I think has been very unfortunate. So I think it's important that we pay attention, and I have not read his book, so I look forward to hearing from others about it. I can guess some of it, I can guess some of what it's about, but it sounds like a really interesting book, with a very rich book. I certainly would like to read it, and I will read it. So for me, it has been a tremendously enriching experience to work with Amartya Sen, both because of his intellectual insights and abilities. He's a really great scholar of enormous erudition, a person who reads, or at least used to read, enormous amounts of things, and had an extraordinary ability to understand what was essential in anything he read and to remember it almost forever. And he also works really hard. I mean, there's a strange contrast has been made between Harvard and hard work, but Amartya Sen is both at Harvard and working really hard. So he has an amazing passion for learning and for thinking, and of course for talking and discussing, like most Bengalis, and for writing and for what he calls public reasoning, for public debate. So I think we have a lot to learn from that as well. So it's been a tremendous experience for me, both intellectually and also at a personal level, because he's not just a colleague, but also a friend, a person I really respect and value. I have one or two questions about the book, but I think I'll leave that for later. So I'll stop with these brief remarks, and I'll look forward to hearing about the book, and I will try to contribute to the discussion after that. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for these wonderful remarks. Your uh, sheer sense of expressions and what we call the honest expressions of what you have not gone through the books, but indeed you have a very close associations with Professor Amartya Sen. We have all regards. That is the reasons actually we bring to this. This platform has brought this debate to continue. Why Amartya Sen matters. After publications of this particular books called Home in the World, uh, it is not about economics only. It is starting from his childhood, the 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 age of the Shantiniketan to Cambridge, and later on a practitioner economist. So we are very much excited to hear the reviewer of the books. So over to you, Dr. Sujit Prasid. You have your floor to channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarveswar. Dignitaries on the dais, Honorable Dr. Jan Dres sir, then all distinguished members of Bibliophile and all the distinguished members of intellectuals all across the country, those who are present here today. I can see many people from all the way from Jaipur, Rajasthan, then some people are from Northeast, some people are from down south India, then some people are from Delhi also. And so it's a very exciting moment. At the same time, it's a very prestigious, it's a very privilege. I must say it's an honor and privilege for me to speak before this elite audience, knowledgeable audience. At the same time, with the gracious presence of Dr. Jahan Dres sir. So once again, my deep sense of reverence to Dr. Jahan Dres sir for being with us. You have simply enhanced the stature of the bibliophile, and you have simply given us a lifetime opportunity to speak before you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So we will discuss this concept called the book review of somebody who is a Nobel laureate. So it's a very gigantic task that I'm going to handle. At the same time, I always remember the kind of situation I face, that I'm also a very simple researcher whom I learned from Dr. Jahan Dres when I was in JNU also. So the name of the book is called Home in the World, a Memoir. It is published in the year 2021, and it written by Professor Amartya Sen and published by Ellen Lane, Penguin Random House, a subsidiary. Now, looking at the memoir, the book starts with his early childhood of Professor Amartya Sen, and it ends with 1963 when he comes back to India after his world tour. He started teaching at Trinity, then he goes to Cambridge, then he goes to USA, then sometime in between, somewhere in the different parts of the world. And he started sharing different worlds, his views. And his experience as a teacher, his experience as an economist, his experience as a researcher, all has been accumulated. And as a very articulate writer, he has presented in a brilliant way for a common reader. Now, if we look at the journey of Professor Sen has been a very widely read person himself. And of the late, he has become a philosopher. From being an economist, right now a philosopher, who is contributing significantly to the every stream of social sciences and who has enriched the entire spectrum of social science right now. So the social science has already been enriched. It's also taken a new turn. The concept of argumentative Indians, or the concept of arguments, public reasoning, and how they are essential for democracy. So the democratic principles and certain core values of a democracy, those things has already been highlighted. So we will start with his narrations of his life journey being a student. So the book, if you go by the book, he starts with the dedication. The book is dedicated to Emma Rothschild, his wife, and there is a note. Subsequently, there is a note. The note is almost for 1 page, and he's speaking very significantly on the note. The note is on the spelling of different Sanskrit words, that he's not going to use the diacritical marks, but he's using certain letters that approximate the English pronunciation. So this is the new kind of thing that we see in academic writing in the world, that he's no more using that diacritical marks that is used in Sanskrit words and historical writings. And there is a preface. The preface is, I think, one of the beautiful writing by Professor Sen himself. In the preface, he is saying that his life has been a journey, and he starts with saying that one day they were selling, and they were selling from Calcutta to Rangoon, and he got up from his deep slumber by listening to the hoot of the ship itself. And his father was around, who was a professor of chemistry, telling that life is a journey, and you need to look at the different parts of world in order to enrich the lives. So Professor Sen says that my worldviews has changed with this journey. So different journeys he will speak. Then he says that how his views has been completely changed with his different locations. And he says that I established different homes in different parts of the world. So the title of the book is called The Home in the World. Now, if you go to this term, the title of the book itself resembles something called a book by none other than his ideal or his guru, Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore's book is called The Home and the World, which was subsequently translated into English by his nephew, Surendranath Tagore. And later, somewhere around 1984, the legendary Satyajit Ray produced a film on this one. So the Bengali term is called Ghare Baire. So the world, the home, and the world. So from here, the title of the book has been picked up. In the chapter 25 itself, there is a simple mention about Tagore, which Professor Sen talks, that he says Tagore's last public lecture was on the crisis of civilization. So he gave the lecture on the crisis of civilization. So in that lecture, Tagore talked about two forms of government. One is based on the cooperation, another based on exploitation. Now, this same argument is reverberated in contemporary India also and everywhere right now. Now, there is a simple historical incident which changed the discourse of Professor Amartya Sen's inquiry into the social science when he was a child. In 1943, the Great Bengal Famine, which killed 3 million people. Now, he started exploring the reasons behind it and the steps that Professor John Reyes was talking, that what are the steps you need to take for prevention of famines. Now, since all of us, we have also seen in the same times, P. Sainath's book, it's called Everybody Loves a Good Drought. So there are different issues that are involved, and Professor Sen is trying to establish a correlation between the different factors, the reasons behind those things, and the prevention of those things. So many times he has been mentioning, specifically in the chapter 25, about one gentleman, British gentleman, was the editor of the Statesman, Ian Stephen, who took on the British government at that point of time with vitriolic attack on the British government about the failure of the government to prevent the loss of life, the loss of food, and the lack of supply of food to the people. Now he is saying this is the public reasoning and the alert role of the media itself, which have been the hallmarks of the democracy in any part of the world. So this is one of the significant contribution of Professor Professor Amartya Sen into his writing of this book, a memoir. So we must always start with the book review. The entire book consists of 407 pages. Then it has got he has divided the book into 5 different parts, means 407 pages have been divided into 5 parts, and each part has been divided into small chapters. For example, the part 1 has got 6 chapters. The second part has been divided into 4 chapters. The third part has been divided into 5 chapters. The fourth part is divided into the 9 chapters. That is the longest part of the book. And the last part, the fifth part, is divided into 2 chapters. And if we go to the last portion of the book, as a very scholarly writer, as a great scholar, as a great researcher, he has added 16 pages of notes from 409 to 425. That is the most crucial aspect of his book. That as a reader, if somebody wants to read something more, what he has written in different chapters, one can go back to the notes section. He can also refer to. So it's also a lighthouse for the future researchers and readers. That is the beautiful contribution of Professor Sen in his book. So this is one step ahead, that the how research is also done. It is also a lighthouse. It is also a milestone for the future researchers. That if somebody is going to write in different chapters, the solid and meticulous research work and the meticulous preparation of the notes, along with something called the bibliography. So if you look at to the entire book, 407 pages of book, then notes of 16 pages, it comes about somewhere around 425 pages. So it's a very voluminous book. But the journey of the book itself, when somebody starts reading the chapter 1 to the last chapter, it has got different issues he is handling. So the another beauty part of the writer called Professor Sen, that the seamless connection between different chapters, and he will bring in different anecdotes from here, from there. Then he will share different anecdotes with his interactions with different world figures, great economist of his time, how he interacted with different economists all across the world, like Mehboob Haq, then Lal Jayawardene from Sri Lanka, different people from India. Then he will simply talk about his some personal life also. When he married to a poet Nabnita Devsen, then the first child, the girl child was born. Then he will go on speaking about his grandparents, his house in Dhaka, and subsequently how he spent 10 years in, and his formative years were spent in Santiniketan under the tutelage of none other than the great poet Rabindranath Tagore. So as a reader, I found him that as a great economist, he has brought in different aspect of economics. At the same time, he's making a link between the economics and the social science, and he's dishing out to the readers in a very interesting manner. And every single chapter makes the reader to look forward to the next chapter, that what the author is going to speak in the next chapter. That's the most important part of the book. And as an author, he establishes rapport right from the beginning of the book. The focus of the book, I was telling a couple of minutes back, and was Dr. Jan Rez sir also speaking, the issue of public reasoning. That the issue of public reasoning, he's speaking in the preface itself, that he mentions about King Asoka, the great King Asoka. The great King Asoka, when he started his journey as a follower of the Buddhism, he started a public discussion forum in Patna and Pataliputra at that point of time to settle down certain issues that were affecting the society at that point of time. So Professor Sen is saying that the very basic foundation of Indian society or larger Indian human society is always based on something called discussions and intense discussions. So when he talks about the concept of the discussion right from the King Asoka, then he also mentions about the writer or the poet called Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni also talks about the same thing, that the moment somebody gets engaged with discussions with different worldviews, then there is progress in civilization, then there is peace on the world also. Professor Sen mentioned the two names, Al-Biruni and Asoka, in his preface also. So I found the preface has also got some kind of interesting parts as a reader. So Professor Sen will continue his arguments and he will explore the different parts of the world and will establish the concept that why he has given the term called a world in the a home in the world. So he says the moment he starts his journey, the different journey as a student, as a young boy from Dhaka, Calcutta to Rangoon, from Rangoon to again to Calcutta, And from Calcutta, how he starts his most intense discussion ever held over a cup of coffee, different over loads of cups of coffee. So he says that the tradition of Adda, or the tradition of discussion in the streets of Calcutta, also enriched his ability to look beyond something called the common perception on any issues. Then he also mentions about an incident that when he was simply an 18 years young boy, he was diagnosed with a lump in his throat, and he himself found out that it must be a cancerous, it must be a very dangerous lump in his throat. But when he approached the doctor said that no, it's just a simple figment of imagination, nothing will happen. They prescribed some medicine. But being a good researcher, he started reading all medical books at that point of time, and it was found to be a benign case of very something called cancer in his throat. So Professor Sen says that the concept of inquiry, the concept of finding out the real truth behind any issue started from his journey. Then he was under medication and he came out of the cancer. He mentions about this thing. So the question of inquiry and finding out the truth, which is the core principle of social science in a very scientific manner, is also from Professor Sen's writing. Now he talks about the three distinguished people when he reached to the college called Trinity College. Trinity had the distinction of the historical connections right from Francis Bacon. Next is Isaac Newton and Nehru. Subsequently, another great author, another great thinker of contemporary time, Professor Sen. So Trinity College, he says that the moment the moment I entered into the gate of the Trinity College, I remembered my distinguished predecessors, right from Newton to Francis Bacon to Nehru. So he starts with something called a very prosaic author, a good English contributor with a command over the English language. At the same time, something called the historical connections with different issues. So he mentions about his Trinity College Association. Now, I will take all the distinguished members here to the last chapter itself. So I have the freedom of moving from here to here, so that it will give you a broad perspective on different issues. And the more important chapters are the last part of the chapter. As I told in the beginning itself, that the book ends when Professor Sen comes back to India in 1963. So 1963, he mentions about the famous intellectual gathering or the intellectual destination in Delhi that is called the Delhi School of Economics. It's called popularly called D School. He's mentioning about the D School, and the chapter is called the Near and Far, where V.K.R.B. Rao, the doyen of economics development studies in India, he sent his son Madhav Rao with the intention of taking Dr. Professor Sen to be a faculty at that point of time. So he remembers those things, and he brilliantly mentions over one incident, that how V.K.R.B. Rao's son Madhav Rao had a meeting with the great economist Pigu. Now the son of V.K.R.B. Rao, Madhav, goes to Pigu and says, "Sir, I've come all the way from India and I've come to pay respect of my father as well as my respect." So Pigu says, "Okay, you have already paid. What is next?" So Amartya Sen jocularly is saying the meeting ended in 1 minute. So he says that my meeting with Professor V.K. Rao also ended with single meeting also. And he was appointed as a professor of D School. So that's a mention he has mentioned. Now, being a professor of Delhi School of Economics, he starts his writing on economics, that certain issues that affect the Indian society at that point of time also. Now, on that chapter also, he goes on mentioning about the most central issue, that is the public reasoning as well as the discussions. Now, he goes on mentioning about the gentleman's name that I took a couple of minutes back, Ian Stephens' contribution to the prevention of the Bengal famine, and that was raised in the British Parliament also. Now, in that matter, he's discussing the public reasoning and the discussion on how they are central, how they are crucial in shaping a democracy and shaping the concept of something called the pressure on the government itself. So he mentions about economist called John Maynard Keynes' theory of persuasion, then John Stuart Mill's advocacy of public reasoning for good policy making. Then at the same time, he mentions in the page number 393, Professor Sen is mentioning in page number 393 about Mill's famous word, that is, the democracy or the government is always by a discussion. And he also mentions about the Buddhist council that was held in 3rd century BC. In the 6th chapter itself, he's mentioning about. And Professor Sen, as a good historian, good writer, he brings out something from the Japanese history. He is mentioning about a Japanese Buddhist prince who was a scholar. His name was Sonoku. And in the year AD 604, which Professor Sen is saying, that he wrote a brilliant book. It's called The Constitution of 17 Articles. Now, Professor Sen is saying this book predates the classic book called, or the classic pronouncement of rights in the entire human civilization, the Magna Carta in 1215. So he is saying 6 centuries before, the human civilization was bestowed upon a great book by Sonoku from all the way from Japan. It's called the Constitution of 17 Articles. And one of the articles was on public reasoning and discussion. Now he says that his social choice theory that was also saved by the writing of great economist called Kenneth Arrow. Now he says the Kenneth Arrow's influence as well as his own teacher Piero Sraffa's influence on this concept of the reasoning has shaped the discussion on the social choice theory. So the moment we start reading about the social choice theory, we get a very insider view on how it got a concrete shape in his writings. Now moving on to the different chapters, I have identified certain chapters like the chapter number 25 in the part V. It's called the persuasion and cooperation. Please remember these two terms. Professor Sen is talking about the persuasion and cooperation. Persuasion is a term he's taking from John Maynard Keynes' writing, and he's starting writing by referring to Tagore. As I have already mentioned, that Tagore's last speech was on this civilization. So in the preface also, he's talking about the civilizational aspect. So he's saying there are two types of civilization that we say in the preface. He says one is called the fragmentation of civilization, and another is called something called the inclusive civilization. So he's mentioning about the very debatable term called the class of civilization, and he settles for a solution to that one. Is that we need to go for an inclusive civilization. That's the beauty of a writer called Professor Amartya Sen. Now, while reading this book, I found out certain interesting anecdote he's mentioned about. In page number 367, he's talking about his meeting with right now the Vice President of USA, Kamala Harris, when Kamala Harris was a simple, small baby, and how her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, and her father, Harris, they were very close friend to Professor Sen when he was in USA. He talks about the interface, and he mentions about certain personal anecdote to this family also in page number 367. Then going on to the page number 320, Professor Sen talks about about something called the issue of justice, on which he wrote a book called The Idea of Justice. Then he mentions about John Rawls, the theory of justice. Now, if you look at the justice theory, John Rawls talks about something called the social contract theory and what predates the social contract theory. So the brilliant analysis flows with the writings of Professor Sen. So the concept of the idea of justice, it has changed the discourse, at least in India, at least among the academic writings all over the world. So going by other things, being an economist, he has devoted one single chapter to on economics. Chapter 18 is completely devoted to economics. The title of the chapter is called What is Economics? Now, in that chapter, in the page 282, the author has provided one of the rarest of the rare photo, that while as a student in Trinity, he is inside a chamber and is reading. That is a photograph also in that chapter, in the page 220. And again, he mentions about another person who influenced him like anything in the page number 284, that Joanne Robinson. Now, being an economist. He's talking about Joan Robinson. At the same time, as a good author, as a good historian, and as a great researcher, Professor Sen mentions about Joan Robinson's connections with India. And as a reader, I was very surprised, I was very pleasant. And it was a delight for me to read that Professor Sen's wide range of inquiry. And as Dr. Jan Resar was speaking, that he remembers almost everything in his life. I think that is reflected in different pages. Now, he says that the famous book Joan Robinson wrote is called The Accumulation of Capital in Cambridge itself. And when he met Joan Robinson, somehow Professor Sen came about uh, the strong ties of Joan Robinson with India. Professor Sen is writing in his book, the latest memoir in his book, that Joan Robinson met her husband Austin, and Austin served as a private tutor to a prince of Gwalior in 1920s. So as a reader, I was very surprised. As a reader, I was very delighted that being an economist, he's handling the issue on economics. What is economics? The title of the chapter. At the same time, he's very particular, is very kind in introducing something anecdote to the readers. So the readers gets very interested, get very interesting anecdote while going through different pages of Professor Sen's writing. Now he goes on talking about his interactions with another economist called Sraffa. Then when he was going to present his thesis, Professor Sen wrote the title of the thesis at the choice of capital intensity in development planning. Sraffa saw that one and he said that there may not be a good quality writing, but I like your title. So Professor Sen is saying in a jocular way, those teachers were great teachers. They also inculcated, or rather they imbibed a sense of humor inside me that Professor Sen acknowledges also. Now, chapter 13 is another interesting chapter where he talks about the great economist of all time, Karl Marx. Karl Marx talks about the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, organization, which Professor Sen also highlighted. And he talks about the Great Bengal famine, where the access to food was cut off. There was ample amount of food, but the access to the food was cut off. So people suffered from a man-made disaster. He is using this term, man-made disaster, and which provoked him to go into something called inquiry into the social science behind occurrence of famine in West Bengal 1943, and subsequently it saved the policy in India, that how to prevent the famine, drought, etc., and how to prevent the loss of life. In different parts of the different chapters, Professor Sen brilliantly, if I go on analysis of his writings, I must say that he has brilliantly recreated the atmosphere of home in the entire world. His home at Santiniketan, his home at Rangoon, then his home at Delhi, then Cambridge, then Trinity. Everywhere he has set up those things. So Professor Sen's formative days were definitely intellectually liberating. That Cambridge and engagement with economists like Sraffa, then his engagement with the writing of Karl Marx, then his engagement with writers like Gramsci, and the book ends with when he returns back to India in 1963. Many times he makes mentions about his great friend called Mehbubul Haq from Pakistan. Then sometime his small time spending that he spent in Lahore and Karachi. Then he makes mention about economists from Sri Lanka, Lal Jayawardene. Then he goes on different issues. So I think when we look at to the journey of right from his early days, we see that both Cambridge and Trinity, what he says, that those two institutions of eminence, they drew him into his splendid history. And when he looks at to the civilization, he talks about the fragmentary as well as inclusive that I already talked. And he also mentioned about Al-Biruni's Tarikh-e-Hind. So the reference that I made in the beginning, that Tagore's book, that book was called The Home and the World, and that was published in 1916, and which Satish Ray made a film in 1984. So Professor Sen is mentioning about those things, that many people, those who have read those books, they must be knowing that there are two characters. One is the a character name called Nikhilesh. There is another character called Sandeep. So it's a debate between the two factors. So it's almost a debate between the eastern part of the world and western part of the world on different ideas. So Professor Sen makes a reference to Rabindranath Tagore and his intense impact on his academic discourse. So there are different journey he makes. One journey is from another from Bombay to Cambridge when started as a student. Then there are the certain captivating journeys. He mentions about in one of the pages about his daughter when she joined the film industry. Then in one film, she was supposed to jump from the 22nd floor of one building to another building, again the second 22nd building. So he says that keeping the tradition of a Bengali Bhadralok, she should have come down to the first floor of the first building, then she should have gone to the second building, then she should have climbed up to the second 22nd floor. So this is brilliant analysis and very simple mention about his daughter, journey of this thing. So like, going to the last chapter, as I already mentioned, and the last portion will be the analysis from as an editor, from an reader. I must say that Professor Sen's brilliancy has been recreated in the atmosphere of home. He has created the home in the world platform. So these views are worldly views that we say in India, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is my home, entire world is my family also. Now, since formative days, as I already mentioned, it has been intellectually very formative dose. Then he goes on something called the economics and professor of philosophy. Right now, he's also a professor of economics and philosophy. That he's also influencing the discourse on philosophy. That is the greatest contribution right now. And right now, he is a professor of economics and philosophy at Harvard and Lanman professor of university professor. Now, going by the work, I will just quote some of the people, those who have contributed or reflected on his writing. One gentleman is called the Nicholas Stern. He's saying Professor Sen is definitely one of the great minds of the 20th as well as the 21st century. And we owe him a huge debt. And I support this statement that at least in as a student of economics and social science, we are very fortunate to see his writings when he's very active in his writings and these things. And he is a source of strength for the youngsters, a researcher, academician, economist, social scientist, and he has been influencing the different broad spectrum social science. So he's definitely the one of the great mind that the world has been bestowed upon, and the entire world civilization has been positively influenced by Professor Sen's contribution to social science. Then going by his writing in the English, there is the New Statesman from England. It mentions about Professor Sen's writing skill that the English speaking worlds, the preeminent public intellectual. So the tradition of public intellectual, he has been the pioneer of the public intellectual discourse, and he carries forward the legacy of Raja Raman Roy. He carries forward the legacy of Swami Vivekananda. He carries forward the legacy of Rabindranath Tagore. He carries forward the legacy of Nehru, and he carries forward the legacy of Gandhi. Professor John Race was talking about the scientific temper. The scientific temper is mentioned in the directive principle of state policy of Indian Constitution. So every Indian citizen is supposed to have some kind of maturity on democracy, public reasoning, as well as scientific temper, which is essential in today's world. So we must reflect on this aspect that public reasoning and scientific temper, the two words must be part and parcel of the education policy in India today, right from the early days of the student. So we can create a very enlightened citizenship in India, and democracy will be matured, democracy will be more enlightened, it will be more powerful. Now, I will introduce one gentleman. His name is Sunil Khilnani, Professor Sunil Khilnani. Professor Sunil Khilnani's opinion is that he is the distinguished inheritor of the tradition of public reasoning philosophy. Now, such a beautiful word, he is paying tribute to Professor Sen's capability. And if you look at the range of his inquiry, right from philosophy to the classic writings in India, Sanskrit writings in India, the different philosophers, the different economic thinkers, and he has brought everyone and he has synthesized everyone into very beautiful books, right from the different books. One of the great book is called the Argumentative Indian. The second one is latest book that is called the memoir, his memoir. So the memoir is not a simple memoir that I did from this thing. He's taking the reader on a very broad range of issues, and very interestingly, he's engaging the reader with different issues. So the reader doesn't get engrossed with, or rather, the reader doesn't feel to be overburdened with different ideas and concepts. So Professor Sen is very brilliant on that one. Very simply is introducing the reader about different concepts, his association with different concepts, and he's mentioning about the relevance of those things. So I must say that this is a masterly approach. At the same time, very ease of erudition. Those two things that are the hallmarks of Professor Sen's writing in these two books that as a reader I found out. So I will end my speech with once again saying that at least I'm very fortunate that in lifetime I could see the memoir of Professor Sen, who has been very brilliant and who has been the pioneer of intellectual query into different issues in this country. So I must convey my sincere thanks to all the distinguished members of audience here, and to listen to me with patience. And I once again convey my sincere thanks and deep sense of gratitude to Professor and Dr. Jan Drees for his gracious presence and his patience hearing. Your patience hearing has simply a great honor and privilege for me, sir. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Prusit, for your illuminating sense of bringing out the different facets inside the books. As Professor Amartya Sen considers the world itself its home, whether it is in Rangoon, whether it is in Kolkata street, and also whether it is in elite Cambridge. So it's a we are very much thankful to you for bringing a very lucid kind of analysis from every chapters in some of the specific pages of the books as well. So with this notes, I would request our participants to please please put your query, or we can have a very good sense of discussions, because uh, there is time, so we can have a good discussions. So yeah, Ganesh Gaivaria, you can please carry on,
Yeah,
Ganesh.
yeah. Am I listen? Am I listening? Hello.
Please introduce yourself, Ganesh. Please
Yeah.
introduce yourself. Yeah.
Yes. My name is Ganesh. I am from Department of Political Science, University of Delhi, as a MPhil scholar. So first and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Reyes and Dr. Sujit for their refreshing talk on the book review of Amartya Sen. But here I have some queries, particularly on the book to Dr. Sujit. Uh, Here, what kind of methodological aspects adopted by Sen in this book? Because if when we look this book, it is directly or indirectly reflects a kind of autobiographical writings also. So, is it what kind of methodology has been adopted by him? And the another question is to both of Professor Reyes and Dr. Sujit is when we are talking about the public reasoning, particularly in the context of democracy, in the current time, what John Rawls also called the public reasoning should not based on the kind of religious ethics, rather it should be a kind of rationality. But in the contemporary time, the Hindutva government, particularly the Bharatiya Janata Party, particularly in the parliament also, they are citing various religious texts, particularly from the Hinduism. So how this public reasoning and democracy is going to be a kind of diminishing the democratic culture in India? So thank you, Professor Raj and Dr. Sujit.
Yeah, over to you, Dr. Sujit.
Yes. I listened to the speech, I listened to the query by our friend from Delhi University. Public reasoning is one of the issue that has been affecting the Indian society. And what he's saying that these days religion is being misused in order to propagate certain different form of ideas. So right from the beginning, Professor Sen has completely dismantled the myth that there could not be any negative views of public reasoning. Public reasoning should always based on something called rationality. It should be based on facts and fiction, and it should also have some kind of secular orientation. Secular orientation doesn't demean the religion, but the question is that how do you bring in the rationality, the question of rationality and facts and fiction. So, Professor, if you go by the Professor Sen's argument that Indian democracy must have that space, which has already been in both in pronouncement in Indian Constitution, the Supreme Court has made different pronouncements. So, whenever the polity of a country goes beyond its natural way, or let's say track, the focus should be on institutions. The institution must play their role. Like in India, the press. The second institutions are the colleges or the universities. At least there are two institutions where they can shape the discussions based on rationality. So even if there are some kind of political interventions or narrow views, very fragmented views on this concept of religion, the most important issue and responsibility lies with those people in the academics as well as in the press. So I must say that public reasoning is also a domain of something called the academics and the press. So we must look forward to the very interesting as well as very active role by the two section of the people.
Yeah, anyone, please, you can raise your hand so that we can call out their name. There was one more query actually from Ganesh. Actually, he was talking about the methodology aspects of the memoir called "Home in the World." Yeah, he was a little bit anxious to know about that.
Uh, uh, should I answer?
Yeah, yeah, please, please.
So far, the methodology is concerned about the book has got little bit of freedom. Then author Professor Sen writing memoir. If you look at the memoir writing in India, it started very early in this country. And if you go to the vernacular languages, there are ample amount of examples where authors have been writing their memoirs. Different parts of the society, people have been writing, many in prose form, many in poetic forms also. But here he has taken a little bit of different form. That being an economist, he's bringing in different economic issues, different critical economic issues like, let's say, social choice theory, the social choice techniques, the issue of social welfare, public choice theories, welfare economics, and he has brought in everybody's idea in a very brilliant way. So just imagine it's a memoir, but the way he's handling this issue, the approach is very scientific, I must say, and it is also academically enriching. And I must say, the approach must be historical. I would use this term called historical, but the way he uses the three terms and writing, it's a very contemporary. It appeals to the new generation also. For example, those who are not accustomed to something called the state interventions, those started in early in India, 1947, development planning, and then the state used to be the only actor. And when we see right now, state is relegating to certain backward, the state is taking backwards, and the market is playing a big role. So if you look at to the two forms of development planning, there are one is state-led, and I would say state market both are existing, coexisting. The market is playing a big role. So he's handling in a very historical manner, very contemporary manner, and he refers to, let's say, Ian Stephen, who was an editor of Statesman. At the same time, he's quoting Al-Biruni, King Osaka, at the same time, modern writers. And he himself is a lighthouse who shows the light for the contemporary world in terms of public reasoning. So the approach is historical, analytical, at the same time, the approach is contemporary as well.
Thank you, Dr. Prusit. So, uh, another gentleman, environment annotations. That means it must be Sanjay Misra. Hello, Sanjay Misra. Yeah. Am I
Hi.
audible to you?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
please.
yes, very much. Good afternoon to everybody. And actually, it was such an observing talk by Dr. Sujit. I'm curious to ask something which is actually not my subject, finance. I'm far away from finance. But as you took my name, I mean, the ID, Enviro Annotations, I'm into environment side. And this name, Enviro Annotations, is the name of a newspaper, which is a weekly newspaper from New Delhi. And my question is actually there are two things. One, was there anything, because Dr. Sujit was talking so observingly, which means he has in-depth knowledge about Dr. Sen's books. So I'm curious to know if there was anything which Dr. Dr. Amartya Sen had written on the recently there was a COP, the Conference of Parties. So was there anything on these environmental issues or maybe sustainable development, like something like sustainable development? And secondly, now we are passing through a phase where there was a pandemic. So was there anything he had ever referred somewhere in his books whereby we can take a reference and we can get some kind of link to how to handle such type of crisis? Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, Doctor. I think environmental annotation. I think you are the editor of that magazine called Environmental Annotation. Dr. Sanjay, being an
Yes, I am
environmentalist,
SK Mishra. Yes, thank you.
okay. So far, the issue of sustainable development goal, sustainable issue of sustainable development, it has emerged from his writings, and Professor Jan Drees is also around. When Professor Sen and Jan Drees are both, they wrote on the something called the how to monitor the process of development, how to judge different countries on different parameters. This issue has become one of the critical issue, and the way they change the discourse of social science, both in economics, welfare economics, and social science also. Sustainability has become an issue, definitely. But coming specifically to the issue of sustainable development goal being a memoir, his memoir stops at 1963 only. And the latest thing he's mentioning about, the one is Kamala Harris. He's mentioning about the day she took over. That is the latest issue that he is handling. Apart from that, so far different climate issues, climate summit, there is no mention about that. But it doesn't devalue his contribution as a writer. I think the second issue was on something called pandemic. In preface, somewhere he has used the term preface. Preface somewhere he has mentioned about the term called pandemic, but he's not going to provide any solution to these things. But he's mentioning pandemic, saying that the way the pandemic has made a disruption to the entire process. So the destruction of public reasoning could disrupt the civilization. So he's mentioning a little bit about the pandemic, but not in the giant scale, great scale, or a macro picture, and giving some solutions to that.
Yeah. Jan would like to contribute something. Please, sir.
So first of all, thank you, Sujit. This was a very nice presentation, and I think it made us all feel like reading the book. I will certainly read it myself. I have one question, and I ask it out of genuine curiosity. You see, I thought the title of the book was quite wonderful. When I saw the cover of the book for the first time, I thought "Home in the World." I thought it was a great title. Also, because of the way it echoes Gore Baire, and how it conveys that Amartya Sen was a citizen of the world. So I thought it was a lovely title. But this is Amartya Sen's world. It's not the world. It's a certain part of the world. And my question is, based on the book that you have read, to what extent do underprivileged people belong to that world? I mean, not intellectually, but at the personal level. And I'm asking that because whenever I have had occasions to see Amartya Sen coming into contact with working class people or with children or underprivileged people in any way. I found him very kind and very happy to be with them, and very open. And so it's not at all that he was averse to mixing with such people. For example, I remember on one occasion around the beginning of our association, when I was in LSE, he once received an invitation from school children to address them in their school, and he immediately said yes. And in fact, we were both invited, so we went together, and it was a wonderful occasion. But the point is that once you become that famous, naturally, the privileged people try to monopolize you. I mean, they are the ones who invite you to conferences, to their daughter's marriage, to their home for dinner. They want you to release their book. They want you to write a foreword for their book, and so on and so forth. And so you are really bombarded with demands from that class. And that must have put him in a very difficult position. And I have seen what kind of pressure he came under from all these people who all wanted something from him, and how much time he spent on that. I mean, it's when you see how much time he gave to these people, you wonder how he managed to, on top of that, write so much and contribute so much. So my question is, at the end of that day, when how much time was left, how much space was left for underprivileged people, and what space did that have in his life, at least in that part of his life, because as you said, it ends in 1933, and how much space does it have in the book also? I ask that because I'm very fond of Amartya Sen, and I admire him very much. I have one regret, that he ended up spending so much of his life in the wrong company, in a sense. Not wrong in the sense that not that there's anything wrong with these people, but that they are a particular class. And I think his thought and his life would have been enriched if we had chances to spend more time with other people. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what you think. I'm curious to know how the book feels in that respect.
Thank you very much. As a teacher, so with a very note humility, I must say that, sir, you have been associated with Professor Sen, you knows more than me. But so far, the book goes, and the issue that you have raised is a very pertinent question. He is very sensitive toward the issue of something called privilege section. And his entire memoir that I read, in many times he has mentioned about the negative and the profound impact of the Bengal famine on the common people itself. So he is sharing certain anecdotes from his own family life, that he has seen the famine, the impact of famine on the people. He's mentioning about that people, they are not human beings. They were not human beings. Those who have suffered with this famine, 1943, they were just become skeletons. So he is saying that the way I have seen this human life, the precariousness of the human life, the importance of food in the life of a human being. So he's mentioned certain incident that his family members started consuming less and started giving to different underprivileged section of the people, those who are passing in front of his house. So it's a very brilliant account and a very sensitive account of the human aspect of the crisis. In his entire lifetime, I think, sir, I think you know better than me, that the entire public policy reasoning is focusing on taking the benefit of every single thing developed last man in this society. So he's very sensitive famine and about the suffering of women, that the malnourished women, malnourished children, they're naked, something called again with the participants are always in the priority area of Professor Sen, that I found in this book also, sir. And we must learn from it that whatever we do, we must take the benefit to the last man in society, which father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, also talked about that I'm giving you a talisman. And I think Professor Sen's sensitivity, Professor Sen's compassionate writing, and his concern for this welfare economics has made him a little bit of, I must say, economics with a human touch.
Yeah,
If I
please.
can press you, can I press this point a little more? Because, I am not at all questioning his sensitivity or his commitment. I mean, that I have seen all along. I mean, that we all know. We know that he thinks, he works for the underprivileged. We know that. That is not the point. But my point is about there must be all kinds of people in this book. I mean, I can guess that all sorts of names. In fact, I read one or two draft chapters, so even in those chapters, I could see that he remembers a lot of people. He wants to give them their due. I think he also knows that they will be pleased to be named in the book, so he mentions them and anecdotes and all that. But so my question was, in that whole gallery, it must be a huge list of people who appear. How many of them are people from underprivileged background? I mean, obviously it has to be mainly privileged people, because these are the circles in whether he likes it or not. But are there examples of encounters, like, for example, working class people? That was my question.
Sir, I was that the question that you are raising, and Professor Sen mentions about the feminine privileged sections are concerned. Some of his friends, classmates on these doors. With all honesty here, that in the chapter first and chapter 2, but we cannot call them there from the underprivileged section. But he mentioned some of the like the Santiniketan days, then his days at Calcutta. So among the broad range of name of personalities, I must say that he has mentioned few names from his association in Bengal as well as his Calcutta days, sir.
May I, Dharmesh sir?
Yeah, please,
Hello.
sir. Please, sir.
So, hello, namaskar to Professor Jindiris and Professor Sujit and all the members of Bibliophiles. Now, the question that has been raised by Professor Jindiris, I'm a great fan of his. I've got all the books. Actually, I wanted to display all his books today, but I think there is paucity of time anyway. I've got the book myself in the Kindle edition, Home in the World. Well, whether it answers your question or not, I don't know, but let me read out few lines if you allow me, sir, because there is a chapter called The Famine in this particular book. And there Professor Sen has written, the situation continued to worsen. I'm directly quoting from his book. And by September, we thought that perhaps 1 lakh destitute people had passed through Santiniketan. I think at that time he was in Santiniketan. Passed through Santiniketan on their long journey to the big city. The continuous cries for help from children and women and men ring in my ears even today. 77 years later, my grandmother allowed me to give a cigarette tin full of rice to anyone who begged for food. But she explained, even it breaks your heart, you cannot give any more than 1 tin can of rice to anyone, since we have to help as many people as we can. I knew that small cans of rice would not go very far, but I was glad that we could at least do something to help. One of those who arrived at the time was Jogeshwar, an almost fatally hungry boy of 14 from Dumka, about 40 miles from Santiniketan, whom my aunt fed immediately to save his life. This was the experience, and many more things have been such things have been written here in this chapter. And of course there are just a minute, the chapters that we have. I think as far as this particularly in the early part of the book itself, he has mentioned about Burma, as Dr. Sujit was talking about, that how a gentle population was turned into violent haters by the military junta. Okay. And simply by misinformation and false propaganda, how the Rohingya Muslims, they were, I mean, just uh, they were just driven out of Burma, or they were tortured like anything. There in the first life, in the first chapter itself, he has mentioned, and of course, uh, I think that much I can have for Dr. G's
Yeah.
this question. There are many more things I wanted to say actually.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this
Okay.
wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, Jendri sir, would you like to respond? Then please. Yeah. Jan, would you like to respond to that query or?
Not really. I just say that you gave a very good example of what I had in mind of how these experiences of coming in contact with underprivileged people affect our values and our commitments and everything. But the point is that experience that you mentioned, that happened before, much before the time when he became so famous and eminent and started moving in those circles. So the thing is, so my question is, to what extent did it continue at other stages in his life? I'm not saying that he should have met famine-stricken people later on, but I'm generally thinking of encounters with the world of work as opposed to the academic world in which he normally moved. I don't grudge the fact, he was a man of the mind. He is a man of the mind. I'm sorry. So naturally, that is where he belongs. I'm not saying he should have left Harvard and come and live in a village in West Bengal or something. Not at all. But even in that situation, I wish academics had more opportunities to engage with other parts of society, because I think that's important. It affects your thinking and your knowledge and your values. So I was just curious to how the book came across in that respect. I'll stop here. I'll have to leave in a few minutes. I'm very sorry, but I really enjoyed the discussion, and I'm very grateful to you for inviting me. I'll stay until 5:30 if that's okay, and then I'll have to leave.
Please. Thank you, sir. Without
Service, sir.
Yeah, you are just a minute.
No, I
Thank
have
you,
a question. Is it possible?
Okay, you can please.
Service, sir?
Yeah, you proceed, please.
Yeah, please. Thank you. So, thank you very much, Dr. Drees and Dr. Sujit. It's a very interesting review. And the question is just, it's a very, my what I can say, my confession that I have not gone through the book. That's why a question is coming to my mind very repeatedly while Sujit started actually reviewing the book. That Professor Sen has actually made the world as his home, and repeatedly he is actually interacting with his own people and the ideas, and talking about his own people, own country, own situations, own issues. Now, he has never forgotten anything. But by chance, Sujit, is there any page laid out here where he has actually spoken something about the socially excluded populations in India, basically where we are actually talking about, not we, the international organization, as well as the government, as well as the people, and academia is now also talking about the Sabke Saath, Sabka Vikas, or no one should actually lag behind. leave behind. And also Professor Sen also sometimes actually spoke about the social exclusion concept and applications and scrutiny in one of his papers. So is there anything actually laid out by Professor Sen in his book on the socially marginalized communities, particularly in India? Sujit, please.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Motilal Malik, sir, for your this query on. And I must say that being an essay and this memoir, he's leading out different aspects of economics, different aspects of his life, different journeys that he undertook, and the different people that he has met, and certain anecdotes he's sharing. So, for the exclusive term that you are using, socially excluded, there is no such kind of mention here about the social exclusion because it's a memoir. He's dealing with the life to 1963 and all these things, but in different issues like the theory of justice on these things, he's referring to those things. But using specifically if the question that you are raising very specific words, there is no mention of those things, but that doesn't demean his contributions. But he has always remained alive to this issue, right from the chapter that was mentioned by Professor Pandya sir about the famine that he has many times he's mentioning, right from preface to chapter 25 that I discussed, and in between also, that how a simple man-made disaster having a very economic ramification, and it's a complete indifference from the government of India at that point of time, it has led to the colossal loss of human life. So he is mentioning about that the destitutes are walking around, and his grandmother and other people, they are dishing out foods to everyone. At the same time, the issue of the social exclusion, specifically, I didn't find anywhere in the mention. I must confess it here. And
Yeah, thank you for sorry for this interventions. We are very much happy that the kind of questions is generating out of these particular discussions. We'll definitely keep in mind. Without wasting much time, may I call to Dr. Motilal Mahamalik to please give his concluding remarks about this particular event. You are welcome, Motilal sir. Yeah, you are muted. You should mute here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sarveshwar, for give me some time to actually give a concluding remark on this event. And let me start with my apology that I could not able to actually go through the book properly, as I was discussing with you yesterday that I got this book up late, being in Jaipur in the metro cities, and it is basically the reasons that I could not go through. But coming to the topic today, I am very much thankful to Professor Drace and Dr. Sujit to actually give their valuable remarks and thought on his associations with Professor Drace's associations with Professor Sain, and Dr. Sujit's a very illuminating and very detailed account of the review of his book, The Memoir. And basically, coming to Professor Drace, he is a generally his title of books and his association with Professor Sen. It says generally people term his as people economist, as a few times before maybe Dr. Sarveshwar or Sujit also said that he is a people economist, and in the same way we can say that Professor Sen as people's thinkers. I met Professor Drace in 2001-2 in Sambalpur University, and got very few time to interact with him. why I am bringing this issue is that how they are actually very much closely associated with people and public places, that I am just remembering. Then Professor Saraf sent us to the railway station, Sambalpur railway stations, to actually just bring Professor Drace, and we are just searching where he is. Me and Dr. Gagan Bihari Sahu, we were just searching where he is then. We're thinking that he will come with a coat, suit, and because he's a foreigner, that is our perceptions. Then we found that he is just taking water from the public tap on the platform. And one little boy, he just read out the placard we have, that "Welcome to Professor Jean Drace." Then he just saw our side. Then we found that probably he must be Professor Drace. So it is not, Professor Drace is not only generally not simply known as people economist. He lives with people, as I know at least. He lives with people. He lives with people ideas, and he is always encountering with the issues people actually face with. And his association with the ground to Harvard, Cambridge, with Professor Sains actually make him, and also equally Professor Sains, very sensitive towards the people's issue in India. So the whole talk was actually what I can see. Sujit's review of the book. What I saw is very interesting and very illuminating, comprehensive, and a timely review of Professor Sain's book. I saw Professor Sain as a very great observer and minute observer, we can say. Not only great, but minute observers, a rationalist, and advocates of democracies and pluralism, and a great intellectual, simultaneously a great intellectuals. All these four things are actually very clearly actually reflected in his book. Then even if he was in Cambridge in almost all a major period of his time, fertile time there, but he has never forgotten the issue which is actually, or the problem faced by the Indian population and the marginalized sections of the populations in India. He started with the payment issue of payment, and that actually what I can say provoke him to actually write a very beautiful book. And if we'll see the readings of or books or papers of Professor Sain and Drace together or independently, then almost all the books are of high economic calibers, as well as very very rooted into the public places of public's issue. Then any book we can start. I was talking about the social exclusion concept and application, what he has written for the ADB group. Then starting from the choice of technique to idea of justice, then argumentative Indian, then poverty and famine, and the political economy of hunger, the selected essay, the Indian economic development and social opportunities. All the books actually written in the later phase are generally into the, he has actually tried to actually enter into the public issues in general. Professor Sain and Drace has tried to enter into public issue in general. And the present book reviewed by Sujit is basically a memoir. And in this book also, he in all this chapter, in part, there are 5 parts in this book, as Sujit has mentioned. And in the 5 parts, there are many chapters. But in except one chapter, I think, which is a voluminous chapter, where he has spoken about Piero Sraffa and all other economists, except this chapter, in almost all the chapters, he has actually tried to speak some things about the Indian situations, Indian marginal populations, then the issues, what we have faced in history, and what we are actually facing today. So then after this discussions, during these discussions, Sujit has actually taken us to the people who has also actually spoken about Professor Sen in the academic colleagues, those who have actually spoken about Professor Sen. But in general, the common people, when we are actually entering to field and or we are taking lectures in the classes, the students with students, and in the public discourse, in when we are actually talking about Professor Drage and Sen, that mostly people are generally waiting for the for any books of Professor Drage and Sen's to actually come. Whenever there is any indications that a book is coming, generally people are very eager to actually listen to them or read the books because it is grounded with the Indian realities and the people's concepts. So in that way, I think I was also waiting for this, and probably the bibliophile who has actually taken a very great initiatives to actually review the the recent book recent book by Professor Sen, and rightly actually choose the person to give his personal associations with Professor Sen, and they found Professor Drage as the right choice. And Professor Dr. Sujit is a right choice to review the book because, as I know that the prime intentions of the bibliophile was to start with the regional issue, and and Dr. Sujit is from Orissa, and Orissa, this uh, this biblioclep groups has started by the Oriya people particularly, but due course of time it has actually extended to all India level. But in most of the chapters by Sain, generally we will find a regional feelings, or in the sense that he tried to actually capture the issue of the people or issue of the regions in particular. In that way, uh, I will expect that in the near future, I think Sujit will actually draft few lines on how the memoir is somehow related to the issues of Orissa, how we can actually link the observations of memoir of Professor Sen to the upcoming to the present issue of Orissa or our problems. So then, of course, I would like to actually thank Sujit for his great review. People, those who have actually participated and raised very interesting questions on the review of the review of the book. Especially, I would like to actually mention Professor Drage, S.K. Mishra, and Mr. Ganesh, who has actually brought out very pertinent questions, which actually enrich, not only enrich their knowledge, but also actually we got an opportunity to actually enter into new dimensions to look into the book of Professor Sen. So, servicers, I would like to actually thank again the Biblioclep groups, Biblioclep community, and particularly Sujit, Drage, Sarveshwar, for giving me an opportunity to actually speak few words on the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this wonderful remarks and the concluding note that there are few pertinent questions emerged out of this discussion. That is what our intentions is all about. The bibliophiles will not simply actually reviewing the book, but in every book's reviewing programs, we have come out something out of that. So I'll just actually we are running very short time. There is a paucity of time. Actually, we have crossed the 10 minutes marks. So usually we don't do this. this is an exceptions, because in exceptional events, the exceptions is being allowed. So thank you very much for being with us. I must uh, thanks to Jan. He's not around with us right now. He gave his precious times for another 6 to 7 minutes apart from the 1 hour and 30 minutes to listening to us discuss with various things about the books. So we must be thankful to him. I will send a appreciations letters on behalf of the bibliophiles to him as well. On behalf of the team of bibliophiles, it is rather as a customary to extend my heartfelt regards and thanks to Dr. Sujit Prusit for being agree to provide such a valuable time with us. He was very much anxious to give these presentations before for 6 months actually. So in that way, he must be thankful. Dr. Motilal Mohammalik, who joined all along from Jaipur ISD. He give his remarks very well. So last but not the least, all participants from across the country, and there are few people. So they joined from the remote part of the Odisha. I must thank all of you. I can recognize many peoples, but it is not possible to take their names. And last but not the least, our coordinator Kishore Mayer sir has all along took all this hardship to bringing all these persons together. So thank you everyone, and I we should meet in a another editions with different perspective and different books. Thank you for being by have a good time. Thank you. Yes, yes, please.